I'm Andrew Moran, Liberty Nation's economics editor.
Very, very rocky.
Death by government.
Drain the swamp.
Hello and welcome to another installment of Liberty Nation's Swamponomics videocast. I am Andrew Moran, Liberty Nation's economics editor. This week, Biden retires Bidenomics. Reading through the White House transcript shows that President Joe Biden has not uttered the term Bidenomics since November 1st as of this recording. There have been Bidenomics flags and a couple of X posts referencing the word, but nothing much else coming from the lips of President Biden. It makes sense too, for one simple reason: toxic branding. Since the administration's usage of the term went into overdrive this past summer, Liberty Nation has reported extensively on the polling data showing that the country is not exactly bullish on Bidenomics. Although the White House and its allies in the mainstream media insist that the people are too dim to understand just how better off they are under President Biden's economic doctrine, the latest surveys suggest this marketing campaign is not working either. A November NBC News poll found that only 38% of respondents approved of Biden's handling of the economy. A recent CNBC poll found that Biden's approval rating among small business owners hit an all-time low. A Financial Times Michigan Ross poll discovered that 70% of U.S. households thought that President Biden's economic policies have hurt the U.S. economy or had no impact at all, including 1/3 who say his efforts have, quote, hurt the economy a lot. That's quite telling. This is not only disgruntled Republicans either. A recent New York Times Siena College poll showed that most Biden voters do not see a strong economic landscape, but they also say that social issues are more important to them than the economy. So there's that. As a result of all this polling data and abysmal economic data as of late, which we'll dive into sooner, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, or DCCC, is ditching Bidenomics. Ostensibly, their renewed focus will be on saying that Trump is literally Hitler, but that is neither here nor there. Now, even if you want to avoid the political polling numbers and venture straight to the non-political consumer and business sentiment surveys, you can understand why exactly the public is not head over heels in love with Bidenomics. The University of Michigan's monthly Consumer Sentiment Index has been weakening since July. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York's, or FBRNY, survey of consumer expectations show that 1/3 of households think they'll be worse off financially a year from now, and 40% say they are worse off financially now than they were a year ago. Another CNBC survey found that 61% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. But are these people just Debbie Downers and bears? Not necessarily, especially when you connect it with some of the major data points affecting consumers today. Yes, we all know that cumulative price inflation is around 17% and higher for various things like food, rent, and electricity. However, it is other things that matter too. Credit card debt is at an all-time high of north of $1 trillion. Credit card delinquency rates have spiked above 5% in the last year. Car payment delinquency rates is at a 30-year high. People tapping into their 401ks for emergency reasons is still rising, and housing affordability is at a record low. Costs for the average American family are equal to around $7,500 in lost income. Plus, a recent joint Senate economic study found that families spend more than $11,000 a year to maintain the same living standards they had in 2019. Despite all the excuses being tossed by administration officials, the American people are not buying it anymore. But the GDP! But the GDP! But the GDP! Yes, in the third quarter, the US economy expanded more than 5%. But there is a caveat to this fact. 1.5% of this was driven by government spending. When you factor in all of the debt that consumers use to buy goods and services that are of course more expensive, the US economy can be summarized by this: spending money you don't have to drive growth. And that is another thing. Bidenomics can be highly correlated to the soaring national debt and ballooning budget deficits. The national debt is above $33.8 trillion. The US government recorded a budget gap of $1.7 trillion in the last fiscal year, one of the highest on record, and all the Treasury's borrowing in recent months suggests that it is on track for another massive shortfall in fiscal year 2024. And of course, this does not include the interest. The US government is spending about $1 trillion a year to service the national debt. This means that 40% of all personal income taxes collected are being used to pay the interest on America's ballooning debt. But don't worry though, Bidenomics also consists of saving you money on Taylor Swift tickets, Jack. So, the public already realized that Bidenomics has been a failure. The administration and Democrats are now coming to this realization. Unfortunately, since nobody in Washington can ever admit failure, the concern is that policymakers will double down on these same efforts. And do not pencil in Republicans doing anything to reverse Bidenomics, because you know why? That is what Swamponomics is all about. So that's it from this week. Please read my full Swamponomics column on the pages of LibertyNation.com, and be sure to check out my library of Swamponomics TV episodes and interviews, including the former Congressman Ron Paul, best-selling author Carol Roth, and economist E.J. Antoni. Thank you. I'm Andrew Moran, Liberty Nation's economics editor.
Very, very rocky.
Death by government.
Drain the swamp.
Don't get caught up in the media madness. Join our movement for free thinking and free speech at LibertyNation.com. Publishing news and analysis 24/7 with original articles by our team of authors who tell it like it is. Join us each week for online TV shows, The Uprising Podcast, and Liberty Nation Radio. We believe in free thinking and free speech. We are LibertyNation.com.